12,000 test cases dropped in a minute. I had a discussion with a vice president of our organization, and we decided to drop 12,000 test cases in no time, okay? Because it was not useful. Why did we do that? How did we do that? I'm going to explain in this story. Welcome back to Weekend Stories. This is JP here from LeanWisdom. 12,000 test cases have been executed for years, right? When we are doing transformation for this group of around 140 people, this is like age-old product. This product existed for at least 15 years, right? And then they have built this testing and test cases over a period of 15 years and became 12,000 test cases, right? And there was always a belief that, hey, before release, we will execute all the 12,000 test cases. 40 weeks of effort. 40 weeks of effort had to be spent in running 12,000 test cases. And release was delayed, one of the reasons also because of these test cases, right? You can imagine that, it was before we moved them to an Agile. This is 140 people, we moved to scaled Agile. This was more waterfall teams, right? It was purely waterfall teams. So there was a proper testing group, and there was a belief that, hey, we have to execute these many test cases before the release, otherwise we can't sign off. There are so many stakeholders to sign off. One of the stakeholders was the head of testing, has to sign off saying that yes, the release can happen. The problem was, nobody really looked at what is this test cases giving us returns, right? So I went and asked this question once: is it really adding value running 12,000 test cases? Right? They said, yeah, I think that's why we are doing it. Then we looked at the last 2-3 years of releases, and every time the test case was executed and recorded in a tool, I saw out of 12,000 test cases, only less than 2% of the test cases had some problems, some defects, right? At least 8 to 10% of the test cases were obsolete. They were marked as passed, but because the test case was obsolete, nobody had time to clean it up, it was kept. So you can imagine, close to 10% of the test cases, which is like 1,000 plus test cases, were just obsolete, which was not even relevant. Now the remaining test cases never failed in the past. Never failed in the past of 2-3 years of our past records. Now the question was, do we need to execute these tests? They said yes. I said, let's logically talk, instead of being emotional and say that, we have written test cases, we need to use it. Logically, does it make sense? Are we spending so much effort? Right? Now, when the question was asked in a meeting where there is the senior vice president of engineering, he said, I think it makes sense to ask this kind of questions. Why are we wasting so much time if it is not adding value? Now then we looked at it, what are these 2 to 3% or less than 5% of the test cases which are really failing? 2 or 3%. Then we found that whatever features that we changed, relevant to that, the regression areas were failing. And those regression areas had to be taken care. So we kind of relooked at the whole testing strategy and said, hey, we are never going to execute 12,000 test cases unless we automate. So we have to take 2 paths. One is drop the 12,000 test cases, right, completely, and do only regression tests. The second path is, okay, let us also start automating. We have never automated in the past. Is it great? Now, out of 12,000 test cases, we carefully looked at what test cases to automate. We kind of looked at end-to-end positive scenarios to be automated that will give us a kind of a confidence that yes, the system is working. And let us do a deep dive regression testing in the areas that we touched. 15-year-old product, you can imagine there are quite a few modules, quite a few systems that are integrated. And it makes sense. I touched module 1, it may impact module 3 and 5. Okay, let us go do a regression on these properly. And let us see if we can do automation of those as well. So now the test case were taking a long time, right? So we dropped. The moment we dropped 12,000, we took a risk that next release we are not going to execute 12,000 test cases, we are going to do regression and we will see whatever can be automated. We had close to 0% automation when we did this first release. Trust me, team, we never had a problem. Release was smooth, right? I took a risk of convincing the leaders saying that no, you have to relook at your whole strategy. Let's not do things blindly, and it changed, right? And then we carefully started automating some scenarios. And then we started looking at automation pyramid. Do we need to really spend a lot of time on automating your end-to-end tests, or should we focus on unit test automation? Should we focus on integration? Should we focus on component level? And these questions asked, lot of back and forth discussions, and we came up with a very beautiful automation strategy. Dropping a test case on one side gave us so much results. The outcome of this, the side effect of this, is also that we got so much of great automation strategy that was put in place. It took two years for them to implement this entire automation strategy, but we got a wonderful result. You know, if you have such kind of tests, blindly we are doing, have courage. Sometimes you have to take strong decisions. Right? We cannot just get scared and then so no, we have been following for the last 10 years, so let's just blindly follow. That formula doesn't work. Okay. Hope this video was useful for you. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Bye bye.